Welcome back, mi gente, to Sip, Spark, and Share, where it's about to get toxic. We're diving right into toxic environments, toxic relationships, and just toxic people.
Oof.
It's a mouthful, I know. So let's get right into it. Alexandra, have you ever found yourself in a toxic situation?
When have I not? I find myself almost all the time in toxic situations.
Well, do you want to elaborate a little bit how you get into these toxic situations in the first place?
I think that I get into it because I have a little bit of toxicity in me.
Okay.
So I kind of put myself there.
Yeah.
The majority of time.
Okay.
Honestly, but I'm a work in progress. We're working.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're working.
Yeah. I'm aware of it.
That you're aware. Yes.
Have you found yourself in a toxic?
Yes,
predicament?
I have. I definitely have, and I immediately went like, skirt. Not for me.
Yeah.
Not going to get entangled in a weave of toxicness.
Yeah.
Because we all know it just doesn't end well.
Yeah.
It really does not.
Yeah.
So I have been in the situations, thankfully though, and honestly, not many.
Okay.
But yes, I have experienced it within my personal relationship and also within work environments.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So where does toxic behavior come from?
Good question. I think that toxic behavior comes from, I'm going to speak about me personally. I think that it comes from your upbringing sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from your household.
Okay.
And maybe like the community and the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak about maybe relationships right now.
Okay.
If you are used to and you are normalized in having toxicity around you, that is what you're comfortable with and that's what you gravitate towards. That's what I believe.
Okay.
Now, if we're talking about work and stuff like that,
mm-hmm.
I also think that if you had that upbringing and it was something that's normal to you, you gravitate and you go more towards staying and kind of feeling comfortable. There's a comfort.
Yes, there is.
Toxic,
because it's familiar.
Because it's familiar.
Something that you know.
Yeah.
So you kind of sometimes even, I do feel like you might even seek for it.
You seek
because it was your normal.
Yeah.
It was your normal. I agree. I also think it definitely comes from either a traumatic experience
mm-hmm.
or abuse or even
mm-hmm.
sometimes neglect can lead to you being in a toxic situation. And then if you were in it early on, like in your childhood,
mm-hmm.
more than likely you'll be in it again as an adult.
Yeah.
So I think it does stem from your roots from the beginning if you were exposed to it.
Yeah, I agree.
And do you think that toxic people are born or are they made?
That's like a psychology question. I believe that I don't think that anybody is born toxic.
Okay.
Do I believe that? No, I
don't. You
don't
think it's in the genetics of some people?
I don't. I think that if you are born into toxic situations or toxic environments or people,
mm-hmm.
then you become toxic very, very early.
Okay.
Because you don't even recognize that you're even toxic. You don't even know. It's just
mm-hmm.
part of you. So I don't think that people are born toxic. I think that you are made into a toxic person.
So I am going to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I think
respectfully.
Absolutely, always respectfully here. I think that it can be passed on
mm-hmm.
from generation to generation as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that some people in their genetics and in their personalities could have already those traits,
mm-hmm.
and then a situation could just trigger it even more, right?
It.
I could be completely wrong, but this is just my thought process.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some people that are definitely made, but I think some people that from the beginning already have, it's like with when people have depression, that it's not due to a traumatic event. Sometimes it can be genetic. It could be that in the gene somewhere they just happen to suffer from, it's called clinical depression, which is different from a traumatic event. And then obviously that type of depression along with a traumatic event adds to it. So that's the way that I am viewing it.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like it can be, not necessarily that that's the case for everybody.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, that's good. I agree, but I don't know. I don't know if you can be born toxic. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, leave the comments down below.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Do you think it's something that you're born with? Do you think it's something it's genetic, or something that it just happens that it's taught?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So leave your comments.
Okay. So I have a question now.
Yes.
How do you initially recognize that an environment or relationship is toxic?
Okay. So there are 3 questions that I always say I think you should ask yourself to know if you are in a situation that has some toxicness in it.
Okay.
And the 3 questions that I wrote down is ask yourself these 3 questions, which is, do they allow me to make excuses for myself? So if I'm in a friend group, right? And my friend group always allows me to make an excuse for my behavior.
Okay.
And they begin to condone it and say it's okay.
Okay.
That is not something that's healthy.
Okay.
Because your friendship circle, I'm talking about your real friends, not people that you don't know that are not going to tell you what's good for you. Talking about the people that you're close to. If they don't stop you at one point and say, hey, I know that due to your situation, you might be feeling a certain type of way, but that's not an excuse for you not to get whatever it is that you need to get done. They have to hold you with some accountability, right? And if they don't, and all the time you're just saying, oh, I can't because of whatever the situation, and they're like, yeah, you're right, you can't. That to me is not something healthy.
Okay.
They're not going to help you grow or motivate you.
No, they're justifying.
They're justifying it the way that you're justifying. So then you got 2 toxic people in a situation, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, do they make you feel guilty for your ambitions? And what I mean by that is, you can be, let's say your personality is that you're okay with where you're at, you don't aspire for much, which there's nothing wrong for it, right? And let's say I'm a person who aspires for a lot of things in my life and I dream big, right? Both are equally correct. There's no wrong in somebody wanting more, and there's no wrong with somebody not wanting more. But now if that person is constantly telling you, you dream too big, you shouldn't be doing that, and is constantly putting you down for your thoughts, that's toxic, and pay attention to that.
That's gaslighting.
And not even just gaslighting, which is also true. That does happen in toxic situations, but it's like nobody should be stunning your growth or telling you that the way that you think is incorrect just because they don't see themselves doing it. And sometimes it happens because since they don't want more, they don't want you to want more. And that's how you notice there's something toxic there, something that's not healthy, right? And then the last one would be, do they tell me the truth? Because a real friend will always tell you the truth, even if it feels uncomfortable. If in your friendship, this person, you know that you're doing something wrong and they're never calling you out or just telling you like, hey, what you did, something's not right. They're not your real friends. Something's not healthy there, that the fact that they don't even feel comfortable in telling you. Maybe it could be vice versa. Maybe it could be where you're the toxic person and that's why they don't feel comfortable in telling you, or the other way around. So I think those are 3 things you should ask yourself. But what about you? What were some ways that you knew?
Like if somebody... Okay, so honestly speaking, I didn't recognize that I was in toxicity.
Okay.
Now I think that maybe a red flag or 2 will pop up.
Yeah.
But honestly speaking, I sometimes cannot recognize it.
Okay.
And I think that it's because, like I was saying earlier, my upbringing, not that so when I say like my upbringing was toxic, I don't want people to get confused and think that I lived in like this humongous abusive home and that everything was toxic. No, there was a lot of toxic behavior within my home, within the family household. And it was from when I even remember. So it's something that was already known for me. Toxic behavior is something known, something comfortable, something that I was taught in a way, not not because my parents said, oh, you need to do this, but no, I saw the interactions in the house, and I even saw the interactions outside of the house of how people would interact with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's something that was comfortable and was known and was familiar for me.
Okay.
So as I got older, I became, and I can say this responsibly, I became a toxic person. I was a toxic woman, or little girl, whatever you want to call it. And it was very, very difficult to remove myself from other toxic situations. So when I say that, let's say that I was feeling, let's say for school.
Yeah.
Let's say I didn't experience any bullying, but let's say that I was witnessing some type of bullying going on, or if I was maybe getting my feelings hurt in a relationship,
mm-hmm.
or in anything like that. It wasn't like alarms didn't go off.
Yeah.
It was something that I was like, oh, okay, this is just, you got to deal with it.
It was maybe in your subconscious. It's
not
something that you were aware of.
I wasn't. So you couldn't, it's kind of like, you couldn't tell me like I couldn't tell myself, hey, this is unhealthy. This is I couldn't. So initially I didn't recognize any type of toxic relationship, work environment, friends, any of that. I did not recognize it at all.
Yeah.
Now, because I recognized that I was toxic, I recognized that, I recognized how I grew up and my upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've set some boundaries, and now I've kind of taught myself
mm-hmm.
how to see a red flag or two, even though it's still very difficult for me to recognize it. Maybe
mm-hmm.
I would have to, okay, so I'll say that now I can, if people was to tell me, this person isn't really, I'll be more open to hearing it. Before,
mm-hmm.
I was much more justifying other people's behaviors and stuff like that.
Okay.
It wasn't something. So the answer to your question is I didn't initially recognize it.
Okay. You
at
didn't
all.
see it.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Not at all. Okay. So I have a question. Do you believe that toxic behavior has been normalized today?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It definitely has been, I think, but I also think that it's always been kind of normalized.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when a person was toxic, this is not something that you spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't, right now we're giving it a name.
Yeah.
Before it was just this person, it just is the way that it is. We wouldn't say they're toxic.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I feel like it's so important that we're actually talking about it,
mm-hmm.
because back then I didn't have a word for the people that were acting a certain way that didn't look familiar to me.
Yeah.
Just to me, they were just crazy.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as toxic. It was just,
yeah.
They're crazy, they're not well, they're insane. That's
Yeah,
how I would
yeah.
look at these people.
Mm-hmm.
Now that there's a name for it,
mm-hmm.
I'm able to be like, okay, they're not crazy. I'm more educated on they've gone through something
mm-hmm.
that's led them to act a certain way, versus just me thinking, oh no, they're just crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Because we all have, especially in the Spanish household, where we're always like, oh, fulano's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're crazy, is they probably either have a mental illness, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, have been through some type of abuse that has led them to be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that they're just crazy.
Yeah.
But we were always just told to stay away from this person. They're crazy.
Yeah.
So toxicness meant crazy behavior.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a misconception within itself.
And that's so wrong sometimes.
It is completely wrong, because it's not. But it's I feel like they're not aware of it, the person that has a toxicness, and then the person who's seeing the toxicness also doesn't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So it's it's just crazy to me that there's so much toxicness out there. There's so many people that need help out there and they're not getting it. Maybe they're either scared to talk about it, they probably didn't grow up talking about it, or God knows what else, is out there.
Yeah.
So
it's very normalized.
It is.
You hear it in songs. You hear it, and you hear toxica and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I remember that there was one point that I remember you used to be like, don't say that. I used to my ex, I said what Toxico is calling.
Yes.
And it was something funny to me.
And they also made toxicness for a female as a good thing.
Yeah.
Because if you were toxic over a guy and you did crazy things, then for a guy it was like, oh, she must be a good one because she will die for her man. She will ride or die if she would do this. And it's that's not healthy.
Yeah.
Nobody should be dying for anybody.
You shouldn't be riding and dying for no one.
At all. But the fact that they've normalized that the more psychotic that you are in behavior, behavior, the more it means that you have feelings, and the more that you
loyal,
care,
you're
or
more
your
loyal.
loyalty.
Yeah.
So people have that completely confused.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is why we're talking about it today. Now I have one for you, and this one,
oh God,
it's I'm sure you've been there.
Okay.
But have you ever been around energy drainers?
Oh yeah.
Like people that just suck the
Yeah.
light out of you for no reason.
You know what I call them?
The vampires.
No.
That's what I call them. They're just bloody vampires.
I call them in Spanish. I have a Spanish saying, saco sal. El saco sal. That's the how you say that in English?
What's the translation in English?
The bag of salt.
The bag of salt. So they just salty.
They salty. They just they drain you.
They drain you. Yes.
Yeah. And I've been around those people. And recently.
Yes.
Well, not that recently, but recently within the year. I remember that I had made a comment to one of my friends, and I had said, "Do you feel heavy, like when this certain person is around? Do you feel heavy, or is it just me?" Because remember, I was going through like my healing phase, and then I was like feeling like all these energies. I got into a point that everything was about energy, and then I was like, "Is it me, or do you feel like a dark cloud comes into the room?"
Yeah.
And my friend was like, yeah, well, this particular person, my friend was like, "No, I think it's you." But like, I don't think that a dark cloud comes. But I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt it, and so yeah. So the answer is yeah.
Well, what I could tell you is that my energy drainer in my life, believe it or not, and it's crazy because I didn't know that this person was an energy drainer for me back then. Not anymore. The contrary, this person now is actually a good booster, which is funny how there could be a change in your life.
Yeah.
But the person that drained my energy the most growing up was my mother.
I know you was gonna say that.
She was a heavy energy drainer.
Yeah.
Because she was just so stuck in her being realistic to the harsh core, and just like she lived in the here, never dreamed even a little bit. So that kind of sucked all the me wanting to dream and aspire for a lot of things. And it's crazy because me and her have spoken about this, and we've spoken about a lot of things, which is beautiful how our relationship has blossomed, because I never thought that I would be able to have these type of conversations with her. And it was just like, she was just so negative. She was negative Nancy.
There's people that are heavy.
Wow.
That are heavy.
And
they don't even realize it.
And then they are not aware of it. They're not aware that they're being heavy, and that their heaviness carries over to you. It could just be as simple of just sometimes not even acknowledging what you're doing. You could be doing something great, and to them it's just like, oh, okay. Like, just that response kind of kills the little bit of motivation that you might have had.
Hope
like
you
that
woke
little
up with.
hope. If you already were in that transition, it was like, damn, she just killed everything. I don't want to do nothing. So that's how I grew up, where it was like, there was no motivation at all. But like I said, she's come such a long way, and she is my biggest supporter now. And that's why I say, like, if you can seek some help outside of your circle, a therapist,
sometimes you
have a mentor,
you have to go outside of your circle.
You have to seek outside sometimes of your circle.
You have to.
Unfortunately, sometimes you just have to do that in order to get out of it. And mind you, she wasn't a toxic person. No. My mother was she's never been toxic. But was she an energy drainer? Absolutely 1000%. So if you know somebody out there who might not be toxic, but drains your energy, you might as well do to them as you do to toxic people and remove them. Because if not, you're not going to be able to grow. You're just not. They're going to stunt it right away. Especially if you already are lacking that boost of confidence. So, energy drainers, stay where you at.
Oh my God. So what are let's talk about work now.
Okay.
What are some red flags to spot toxicity at work? Because we're talking a lot about relationships, about people. I want to let's talk about the work field here.
Ooh, there's a lot of toxicness in there.
I feel like there's like the most toxicity there.
You know why? Because there's a group of people
yeah.
with all different types of personality.
Yeah.
Remember, in your friendships, you get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Your relationship, your partner, you pick and choose.
Mm-hmm.
Work, you don't pick and choose absolutely nothing other than the fact that you went into that career,
yeah.
right? Hoping that everything was going to be great.
Yeah.
But then you meet a bunch of characters. It's like a telenovela. And sometimes they don't match with what you grew up with. And then you start bumping heads, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a list of 10 toxic signs,
okay,
right?
go.
And I've experienced a whole bunch from here. So number 1.
Okay.
In work. If there is poor communication, there's a certain level of toxicness. Mm-hmm. You should not be going into work and feeling like you have no clarity as to what you need to do, mm-hmm. what your duties are, mm-hmm. and there should be a mutual respect in how you communicate with each other.
Absolutely.
So communication is sign number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Sign number 2, if you go into a workforce and you start to see cliques, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cliques is there's one thing to have friendships, another thing is to have exclusion, mm-hmm. where it's like, we're a group, mm-hmm. you're new, you're coming in, and we want nothing to do with you, right? Mm-hmm. There's also gossiping going around. Mm-hmm. You just came in, and I'm already telling you, look out for this person, they're acting this way, look out for fulana, like, that's another sign.
Yeah.
There should not be any cliques, everybody should be inclusive, and definitely gossip at the bare minimum, right? Yeah. But there's gossip everywhere.
Yeah, you already know.
Then there's the unmotivated coworker.
Okay.
The person who just doesn't want to do anything mm-hmm. and wants to do bare minimum and looks at you like, why are you doing extra work? Mm-hmm. Like, stop it. Like,
mm-hmm. And that's toxic?
That's a problem. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's part of toxic signs, not just the only one. Mm-hmm. But if you're unmotivated, fine, be unmotivated. Mm-hmm. But don't stop me.
Oh, once it starts affecting you.
Once you bring it over to me, because I'm the type of person, oh, you want to do extra work? Knock yourself out. I'm not stopping you.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be like, no, don't do that.
Okay.
That's a sign.
Okay.
Then I have where there's no growth in that type of work of environment, where it's kind of like you go in and you already immediately see that there's nowhere to move up in the ladder. Mm-hmm. That's also a sign, because in every work, career, job, wherever you at, there should be some type of room for growth, mm-hmm. right? And then the other one, which is where I see it a lot, is specifically in toxic places, mm-hmm. if there is a high turnover for employees, meaning that you are constantly seeing new people come in and old people go out, mm-hmm. that's a red flag, run.
Yeah.
Because nobody should be moving that fast. Mm-hmm. in a workplace. Mm-hmm. Okay, something is wrong with either the higher ups or the leader or the manager, but something's not right if they're constantly getting rid of people mm-hmm. and bringing in new ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that to me is a big one.
Yeah.
Then I also have, if at work you don't have a balance between work and your regular life. Okay. If you're taking over on your work to your home, on a constant, and you don't know how to separate the two, mm-hmm. something's not right there. Okay. Because work should just be work. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with your home life.
A lot of people don't know how to do that.
And a lot of people don't know how to separate it.
Or home stuff and so
yes, or don't bring your work drama to your home, or vice versa.
Yeah.
That's another red flag. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, like I said, I have a few, mm-hmm. but another one that hits home for me is, if you have that gut feeling, and that trigger the minute that you go in, mm-hmm. trust your gut.
Yes, stop not trusting your gut.
Trust it, because more than likely you are correct.
Yes.
You are correct. So those are just a few signs of toxicness. And again, just because there's one, it doesn't mean that it's all it's all toxic. But if there's a handful, that should say something.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you another one.
Yeah.
Are there any traits that we should be looking out for in people?
Yes.
Any toxic traits? What are they?
Yes.
Tell me. And I want to know this because, like I said before, I don't be recognizing toxic. Like, I don't. I do a little bit now.
So I'm going to say this.
I need a thing.
Before I answer your question, we all have a certain level of toxicness in us.
Yeah. There's a little toxic.
Everybody has a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
But it's how many of those traits do you have that will turn you into a toxic person? Okay. Right? And it has to be, it's like a pattern, right? It's like, this is your identity.
Okay.
So if you recognize this list that I'm going to say out loud,
oh boy,
then know that you need to go back and do some work and figure out why do you have these traits.
Okay.
So the first one is a typical toxic person is usually judgmental.
Okay.
By what I say about judgmental, we all judge.
Yeah.
I cannot sit here and say that I don't people watch and I be laughing my ass off. Like, I'll sit here, I'll go, let's say, like, we'll go to a bar or something, and I'm the first one to be like, did you see this and that? I'm making a joke and I'm lighthearted, but I'm not judging them in the way where I'm putting them down like, oh my God, did you see her? Something's wrong with her. Yeah. Like, no, that's what I mean by judgmental, where you're thinking that you're better than that person. Yeah. Okay, that's one. Okay. Number two, typically, they're very needy. Uh-oh. Toxic people are needy. They need to be in the know. They need to have that control, that dominance to make sure that you don't get away from them. Mm-hmm. So if you're very needy...
And they need reassurance.
That's where the neediness comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that one.
Okay.
Then the other one, which is not always the case, is they're typically mean.
Okay.
Typically mean when they're extremely heavily toxic, because there's levels to toxic.
There's levels to this.
Yes. Typically they're dishonest, and that one of course goes because they're not even honest with themselves. Yeah. They can't be honest with you. Yeah. Right? Then I have they're either narcissistic, right? That's one. Controlling. Calculating. So you could be calculating without wanting to do any malice. But when you're calculating because you want to use somebody, you're toxic. Yeah. Okay? Then there's verbal or physical abuse, which that one is one of the obvious. Yeah. And there's emotional inconsistency.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't recognize that.
Yeah. The one day they're hot, the next day they're cold. You can never figure them out. Yeah. They want you today, they don't want you tomorrow. That is a problem. Run.
Corre por tu vida.
So if you have, I would say, 5, just 5 from this list, you really need to evaluate yourself and ask yourself, why is it that I have this? And it usually leads back to the root of it all, which is there's something wrong or lacking in your self-esteem. Yeah. Because toxic comes from having a low self-esteem that needs to be fed by looking for these outlets or sources or people to make yourself feel better. So, yes, those are the toxic traits, guys.
Yeah, I'm looking out for them. And I was trying to check off to see if I have any. I thought I've changed.
Good. I'm glad that you have. And what could I tell you that I had from this list? Because let's be honest. What did Sarai have? And this is something that I actually let go of, but I definitely had it rooted in me. I was a very controlling person. Like, it needed to get done my way at the time that I wanted it, how I wanted it. I was controlling, and I wasn't emotionally inconsistent. I'm very consistent with my emotions. The judgmental got better because I was judgmental before.
But you wasn't judgmental to
I wasn't judgmental in a mean way, but I was still judgmental in the fact that I'm still questioning. Why'd you leave the house that way? Yeah. Which just had a lot to do with because I wouldn't. And why wouldn't I? Because I had a certain image of myself in my head, which had to do with self-esteem. Yeah. So it all ties into that self-esteem right there. And I honestly, those are the only 2 that I see there that fit me perfectly. Yeah. So
I'm not mentioning mine.
It's okay. You don't have to. So I have a question for you. What are some common misconceptions that people have towards toxic people?
I think a common misconception is that people think that toxic people are aware that they're toxic.
Yes.
A lot of people are not aware. I'll take myself once again as an example.
People are not aware.
Yeah, I didn't know I was toxic. Yeah. You couldn't tell me I was toxic. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not toxic. You toxic for thinking that I'm toxic.
Oh my God.
But so I think that some people think that that people are aware of it. I also think that people think that toxic, like all toxic people are mean or bad people, and they're not. No, I think that maybe like either they like what you were saying earlier.
They're misunderstood.
They're misunderstood. That's exactly what I was gonna say. I think that they're very toxic people are very misunderstood because they can actually be in a lot of pain they can be in a lot
No,
of
you have
pain.
to be pain to be toxic.
Yeah.
There has to be a
Yeah.
level of deep pain
Yeah.
in order for you to project these toxic. Because the word toxic, guys, comes from like a toxic waste.
Yeah.
It comes from you're filled with toxins
Yeah.
in your body, and you need to release it onto somebody else.
Absolutely.
That's really what toxicness is.
Yeah.
So you need to cleanse yourself.
Yeah.
But the only way to cleanse yourself is not by going on a quick diet.
No.
It's by looking within.
You got to be aware. You got to recognize it. You gotta take accountability.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you covered. I was going to say the same thing with the misconceptions. It's either they think that they're mean or bad people.
And they're not.
And that they're aware, and most of the time they are not. And it takes somebody who's not toxic to kind of let them know, hey, what you're doing actually, it's not okay. It's not nice. And that would help.
Yeah, and it would help because I'm trying to think back to how I used to be. Mm-hmm. And if somebody was to tell me, because there's not a lot of people, because also you got to understand that when you're a toxic person, that pushes a lot of people away.
Of course.
Like it's only going to attract attracts toxic.
Only.
Right? It doesn't attract like a healthy
No,
person.
That's danger. That's like me walking into a yard that says danger. I'm not going to walk in there. I'm walking my ass right out.
Yeah, so you're only like you're kind of only around toxic people and toxic stuff and like, negative and stuff like that. So those people can't really call you out on it because that's normal. You're both normal people. You're actually thinking like
that the healthy person got a problem.
Yeah, because that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Like, what's wrong with her and her positive energy?
Exactly. It's funny, but it's not.
It's not. Yes,
it's not, because I remember. And then you know what else? I think that sometimes people think.
Yes.
A lot of people think that toxic people are like just very, very, very miserable, right? Yeah. And I think that you are miserable, but you're an unconscious misery.
You're unaware of your misery.
You're unaware of misery.
Absolutely.
So you couldn't tell me before, oh, Tanita, you or Alexandra, whatever, you're so miserable. Because I would be like, what are you talking about? I'm not miserable at all. I actually, and then I would even say, like, let's say somebody was to call me out or confront me, I would be like, no, actually, you need to be a little bit more like me, because that's why people step all over you. Don't you see that nobody come to me with their nonsense because I cut them right off. Meanwhile, I'm not cutting nobody off. They've been cut me off. Yeah. They just didn't know how to cut me off because I'm so toxic that they were like, yo.
So I'm so glad you brought that up because that just brought me back memories.
Oh, God.
People that tend to be toxic, they have a lot of people walk away from their lives and they never know why.
Yeah.
Because two reasons. Yeah. The person usually never tells them. Yeah. They just walk away.
Because they're afraid to. You don't want to,
you don't want to rock the boat.
You don't want to rock the boat. And you don't even want to argue with that person. You don't want to tell that person, listen, I'm so fed up of your attitude. Because you're like, yo, I don't even want to deal. This person got issues. Yeah. Like, let me just.
Or the other scenario is that they don't even know why you're like that. Because remember, the word toxic, it's not something that we were using way back in the day. We weren't saying like, you're toxic, I'm out. We just didn't know. So it's like, there's something about you that isn't right. I don't know what it is. So I'm out.
So I'm leaving.
Now we can actually say, okay, no, your behavior based on what Google says here, because Google has helped us out a lot. And your traits means that you're toxic. So I'm going to let you know, and I'm walking away because of that.
Exactly.
People are not honest with each other. And I just feel like if you are in the healthier end of the spectrum, like I like to call it, you need to start also creating awareness. Don't just walk out. I don't think like anybody deserves to be walked out of.
Seriously.
No matter how bad the situation is. Yeah. Because think about it. If you just walk out, you're leaving that person to harm somebody else. And do you really want that?
And like, seriously. And not only that, you're actually going to make them even worse.
Well, it's not even so, yes, you can make them worse, but it's not your fault. You can't take that guilt with you. But what I'm saying is just to move forward so that this person doesn't continue to be either a burden or just somebody who affects somebody else. I think it's so necessary for us to be able to be honest of why, so that they can get help. Doesn't mean that you have to stay with them while they're getting help.
Yeah, you don't want to walk.
But at least now they know, and they don't live their whole life saying, well, I never knew. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it takes a lot of courage to honestly stick up and say that to somebody. It really does. It's not an easy thing to do.
No.
At all. So, yeah.
It's a little heavy, but it's a necessary conversation.
It's necessary, yes. So here's my question to you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you address or confront a toxic environment or relationship or situationship, whatever you want to call it? But how do you confront it?
Okay, so now,
like you found out.
Yeah.
You saw the signs.
Yeah.
Is in your face. There's no way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You already know that the situation you're in is either toxic or this person is just a toxic person or has traits.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Okay, so this is what I do now, being as honest that I can be, because I'm still learning.
Yeah.
So I'll see, like, for me, I probably won't see red flag 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
I'll probably see it at red flag number 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already overwhelmed. Okay, so I'm already overwhelmed because I'm already having all this negative energy and I've been feeling it and I've been ignoring it.
You're getting triggers.
So I'm getting triggers already. So now when I've reminded myself, because remember, I taught myself how to not be toxic and how to deal with toxicity. So I've taught this, me, myself, and I have taught this to myself. So I'm already on level 4. I'm already overwhelmed. So what I do is I have a conversation. Okay. I sit down, and now I know how to have healthy conversations. Before I didn't. But now I have a healthy conversation, and I'll have one conversation. One. That's my limit. Okay. I will have one conversation with you. And if I see that how I felt, I'll take how I felt at the end of this conversation. And if I felt that I was talking to a wall, or if I felt bad, or if I felt that person didn't listen to me, I cut them off cold turkey. Ooh. I do not talk to. That's what I do. Why? Because I am the type of person that, once again, I grew up with toxicity. I normalize toxicity and I justify it. Okay. And I will sit there and I will justify your toxic ass. Oh my God. I will justify you and I will feel bad for you. Yeah. You treat me like crap and I will feel bad I will feel bad that I sat there. No, it's deep. Yeah. It's deep because it's something mentally. Yeah. And it's also emotionally. Yes. So I will sit there and justify your toxic ass. And I want that. And how you say that? I will accept. Yeah. And sit there and say, no, you know what, this person, because now I know. So now my brain knows why this person is toxic. Yes. And know that I used to be toxic, so this person can change. So now you allow the disrespect. So now I'm like, no, because you know what, Sarai is going to change one day. Why should I walk out on her like how people walked out on me? So I start justifying it. It's sick. It's very sick. And it's a slippery slope when it comes to me.
It's not sick. It's sick. It's just you are having more heart and understanding for them that you are for yourself. Yeah. And I know exactly what that feels like because I've been doing that my whole life. Yeah. So I give you one chance when I recognize that you're toxic. I give you that one chance. I sit you down. I try to talk to you. If I felt like the vibes wasn't right, I literally will not talk to you again. Okay. Like I won't. Yeah. And it'll hurt. Of course it hurts. And I cry. Well, I cry for everything, but I'll sit there and cry. Yeah. But I don't allow myself to do it because I cannot, because I will let you back in and I will not let you go. I won't. Yeah. I cannot do it. Right now, at where I'm at right now, I cannot do it. Maybe, hopefully, a little bit, later on in my life, I'll learn how to tackle that. But I'm being honest and I'm talking about me right now. Correct. Teach me. Tell me. Tell me what to do because I know that there's no teaching here. Okay. But I honestly, like, now I'm going to be like, I wish I could do that. Yeah. I wish I could just, in one cold turkey, just be like, no. Yeah, I do it. I have done that recently. Yeah. Actually, where I was just like, no. Yeah. But it was for different reasons. But whatever. How do I manage it? Well, I'm the type of person that, that I'm not impulsive. No. In that sense, I like to sit on my feelings and on situations. I don't just impulsively react because I know that when you impulsively react, you might have a change of heart. And I'm not the type of person to say one thing and then do something else. Yeah, you're not. I'm not about that. I'm a person of my word. And if I said I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And that's why I limit myself when I'm speaking because I don't want to ever say something and then have to take it back. So because of that, I sit on situations. Now, what I've learned to do is not sit on it too long, right? Because if you prolong something, it's only going to get worse. But I allow myself for like, okay, I realize this person has toxic traits. I realize this person is not healthy. So what am I going to do about it? I already probably told this person that something that they're doing is not good, right? So if I see that they're not listening, I'm going to slowly remove myself, right, from the situation. Not cold turkey, but little by little, to give that person time to wake up and be like, oh, okay, I must have done something. Or maybe they don't realize it, but they're like, something's off. We're separating. So this allows this person to do some digging, and then hopefully they're able to catch it so that then they can fix it, and then we can continue on our way. But let's just say that if they don't and they don't realize it, then I will gracefully tell the person. I will not walk away without saying anything, because I am a believer that everyone deserves to know why they're being left. Because I would never want that done to me, where somebody just picks up and go. I think that abandonment feeling is not pretty, guys. Like, that is the worst thing that you can do to any human being. Is to just drop them like a hot cake. So I will drop you, but I will let you know why. And the reason why, it goes back to what I was saying before, because I don't want you to continue to do that same behavior or thing to somebody else. I don't just look at me and what you did to me. I'm always thinking about, can I save somebody else? That's always been my mentality, maybe because I wish somebody came and did that for me. I'm still waiting, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm doing it for myself now. That's the work that I've put in. But always think about the other person that you're leaving behind. So if there's a toxic person in your life right now, instead of just walking away, let them know, so that you at least give them a chance to not hopefully hurt somebody else. So hopefully, guys, we got some toxicness out of your body. We were able to give you some signs that now you can see, like, oh my God, I didn't even know, and they're here, and you can start doing something about it. But remember, the point of this is not for you to be mean. It's not for you to call them out and tell them of all the wrongs that they did. It's just for you to help them so that you can help someone else.
And recognize that, you know, if you, like, be like me. If you started recognizing that you have a little bit of toxicity and you're like, or, you know, you started deep, you know, soul searching and you started realizing it, you know, you can change. All you have to do is, you know, you got to try, you got to put the effort in, you got to take accountability.
And educate yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
So there you have it, guys. Hopefully we were able to detoxify you. And if we didn't, just pour yourself a nice little glass and join us on the next episode here on Sip, Spark, and Share, where we're gonna walk you through your thoughts. Bye. Till next time. Don't forget to subscribe.
Yes.